I still remember that morning with a clarity that feels cruel now. The sunlight streamed through the kitchen window, catching dust particles midair, making everything look almost peaceful. Too peaceful. The kind of calm that exists right before something breaks forever. My tea sat untouched in front of me, the spoon moving in slow, absent circles, as if my hand was disconnected from my mind. Across the table sat Brian, my husband of 5 years, quiet, composed, pretending to read something on his phone while pretending not to look at me. And beside me, my daughter Karen scrolled endlessly, her fingers moving fast, her attention everywhere except this table. We looked like a family, but we hadn't been one for a long time. When Brian and I first got married, I genuinely believed I'd found stability. Safety. A man who wouldn't scream, wouldn't throw things, wouldn't drink until his eyes went empty. After Marcus, my first husband, that mattered more than romance. Brian was calm, predictable, reliable, and slowly suffocating. At least, that's how I started to feel. The mornings used to be warm. We talk about future trips, laugh about something dumb we saw on TV the night before. But over time, those conversations faded. We started speaking only when necessary: bills, schedules, logistics. No emotion. No spark. I told myself this was normal, that this was what mature marriages looked like. But deep down, something restless had started growing inside me. And Karen noticed. She always did. Karen never liked Brian. She never said it outright at first, but kids don't hide resentment well. She missed her father, Marcus. No matter how many times I told her how dangerous he was, how much damage he'd done to me, she saw him through the soft lens of nostalgia. The fun dad. The one who let her stay up late, who bought gifts when he was sober, who made promises he never kept. Brian, in her eyes, was just there, replacing someone she wasn't ready to let go of. The silence at the table that morning felt heavier than usual. I could feel my heartbeat in my ears. My chest was tight, like my body already knew what I was about to do, and was begging me not to. Brian took a sip of his coffee and set the mug down carefully. I folded the newspaper, aligning the edges far too neatly. A nervous habit, one I'd picked up years ago. I needed to say it now, or I never would. Brian, I said, my voice softer than I intended. I need to tell you something. He looked up slowly, his face unreadable.
Calm.
Too calm. Okay, he replied. I'm listening. Karen glanced up from her phone, her lips twitching slightly, as if she already knew how this would unfold. That look, half curiosity, half smugness, should have stopped me.
It didn't.
I took a breath. I'm going to be out of the house for a month. The words landed in the room like a dropped plate. Brian didn't react immediately. He just watched me, waiting. A month? He asked finally. I nodded.
Yes.
I'm going to stay with Marcus. There it was. The truth, stripped bare. The silence afterward was suffocating. Karen's eyes lit up instantly. She leaned back in her chair, folding her arms, already on my side. Brian didn't raise his voice. That almost made it worse. Your ex-husband? He asked quietly. Yes, I said, lifting my chin. It's his birthday month. I want to be there for him. Even as I said it, the logic sounded thin. Ridiculous. But Karen had helped me rehearse this. Over and over.
Just tell him, Mom.
If you're honest, it's not cheating. You're not sneaking around. And I clung to that idea like a lifeline. I'm telling you up front, I continued quickly. So it's not betrayal. I don't want secrets between us. Brian stared at me like he was trying to understand how someone could twist reality so effortlessly. So you're going to live with your ex for a month, he said slowly, sleep at his house, and you expect me to believe that's not cheating? I bristled. I'm being honest. Karen scoffed loudly. Mom has needs, she cut in. She doesn't have to sit around waiting for you to suddenly become exciting. Karen, Brian said sharply, this is between your mother and me. She shrugged. I'm involved whether you like it or not. That's my dad. And if she wants to be with him, that's her choice. Hearing my daughter defend me filled me with a strange mix of pride and validation. I ignored the uncomfortable knot forming in my stomach. Brian leaned back, studying us both.
Fine, he said at last.
Go. The lack of anger threw me off. But, he continued, his voice steady. If you're leaving for a month, we'll be legally separated during that time. My heart skipped. What? You sign the paperwork, he said. No financial support. For you or Karen. And I'm free to do whatever I want to. Karen laughed. You're bluffing. He wasn't. You want freedom, Brian said, meeting my eyes. You can have it. But I won't bankroll it. I felt irritation flare. You're overreacting. No, he replied calmly. I'm protecting myself. Karen rolled her eyes. Just sign it, Mom. He can't do anything. And that was the moment I made the worst decision of my life. Fine, I snapped. Draft the papers. I'll sign them. I didn't read a single word. I didn't think I needed to. In my mind, this was temporary. A month. I'd go, relive something familiar, feel wanted again, then come back. Brian would calm down. Things would return to normal. Karen told me so. He'll still be there, Mom. He always is. I packed my bags that evening, excitement buzzing under my skin. Karen helped, pulling out dresses I hadn't worn in years. You should take this one, she said, holding up a black dress Brian had bought me for my birthday. Dad will love it. I didn't stop her. Brian stood silently in the doorway, watching us like strangers in his own home. When we left, he waved. That should have terrified me. Instead, I smiled back. I thought I had control. I had no idea I'd just handed him everything. When Karen and I arrived at Marcus's place, the nostalgia hit me first. Not love, not safety, just familiarity. His house smelled the same, cheap cologne layered over stale alcohol, and something metallic I could never quite name. The furniture was old, mismatched, but Marcus greeted us like a man convinced he'd just won something he was always meant to have. He hugged Karen first.
Tight.
Possessive. Then he turned to me, eyes lingering a second too long. Well, he said with a crooked grin. Look who finally came back. That should have been my first warning. The first few days felt unreal, like living inside a memory instead of the present. Marcus was attentive in bursts, too attentive, then distant. He drank less at first, or at least pretended to. Karen hovered around him constantly, laughing too loudly at his jokes, reinforcing the version of him she wanted to believe in. And I told myself this was fine, that this was healing, that I deserved this. I avoided thinking about Brian, about the papers I'd signed without reading, about how calm he'd been when we left. I told myself calm meant weak. By the fourth day, reality started creeping in. Marcus's temper began surfacing in small ways, snapping when dinner wasn't ready, mocking the way I spoke, rolling his eyes when I tried to talk about anything serious. Karen brushed it off every time. That's just how he is, Mom. You're being dramatic. At night, I lay awake staring at the ceiling, phone in my hand, waiting. Brian didn't text, didn't call, not once. That unsettled me more than anger ever could. On the fifth morning, I went to buy groceries. My card declined. I tried again. Declined. A flicker of irritation crossed the cashier's face. Karen watched from behind me, confused. Try the other card, she whispered. That one declined too. My stomach dropped. I checked my banking app in the parking lot. 0. Every account. Empty. I felt cold, like the blood had drained from my body. Karen grabbed the phone from my hands. What the hell is this? My fingers were shaking as I dialed Brian. Straight to voicemail. Karen tried next. Same result. When he finally answered the house phone later that evening, I exploded. What did you do? I demanded the moment I heard his voice. Brian sounded relaxed. What are you talking about? He asked calmly. Our money, I snapped. The accounts are empty. Oh, he said lightly.
That.
My chest tightened. You said separation, he continued. So I exercised my freedom. You can't do that, I hissed. Karen's college fund was in there. There was a pause. Not anymore. The words hit me harder than I expected. You sold the cars too, Karen shouted into the phone when she grabbed it back. Mom's car is gone. Mine is gone. What did you do? I sold my property, Brian replied evenly. You didn't pay for it. Karen started screaming. I barely heard her. My mind was racing, trying to find footing. This wasn't how it was supposed to go. Brian was supposed to sulk.
To wait.
To threaten, maybe, but not act. Not like this. You're punishing us, I accused weakly. No, he said. I'm accepting your choice. And then he hung up. The next few days were chaos. Marcus was furious when he realized we were broke. You told me you had money, he snapped, slamming a beer bottle onto the counter. I didn't sign up to support you and your kid. Karen fired back. You said we'd be a family again. That argument ended with Marcus storming out and not coming back until morning. The fantasy was cracking fast. Calls from Brian went unanswered. Eviction notices appeared on our old house door, pictures Karen took and showed me in disbelief. He's actually kicking us out, she said, voice shaking for the first time.
Panic set in.
I called lawyers.
Friends.
Family.
No one wanted to get involved.
When we showed up at the house 2 weeks later, movers were already there. Brian stood calmly on the porch, watching. Karen lost it. She screamed. She tried to push past the movers. She lunged at Brian, rage twisting her face in a way that scared even me. Stop her, one of the movers said firmly, blocking her. I screamed too. Accused. Threatened. Promised court. Brian didn't raise his voice.
He didn't need to.
Everything was legal. Everything was documented. Everything was irreversible. The judge later confirmed it. Adultery. Signed separation. No entitlement. I lost the house. The money. The marriage. Karen sat behind me in court, arms crossed, fury burning in her eyes. For the first time, she looked scared. When we moved back in with Marcus full-time, the abuse returned quickly. Louder. Meaner. Drunker. The man I thought I could control never was. Karen stopped defending him. But it was too late. By the time Brian left the country, we were already drowning. And then, months later, Karen came to me crying. Pregnant. Kicked out. Broken. She called Brian. Begged. And when he said no, something inside me finally collapsed. By the time everything officially ended, I barely recognized myself. I used to think rock bottom would feel dramatic, crying on the floor, screaming into pillows, begging the universe for mercy. But the truth was quieter. Colder. Rock bottom felt like waking up every morning already exhausted, already defeated, already knowing there was nothing left to lose. The judge didn't even look at me for long. He skimmed the paperwork, glanced at the evidence, photos, timestamps, messages, and sighed like he'd seen this exact story 1,000 times before. Adultery, he said flatly. Divorce granted. That was it. 5 years of marriage reduced to a word. I remember gripping the edge of the table so tightly my fingers went numb. Brian stood across the room, calm, distant, almost indifferent. No anger, no satisfaction, just finality. Karen sat behind me, arms crossed, jaw clenched, her eyes burning holes into Brian's back. She looked like she was waiting for the world to apologize to her. It never did. We walked out of that courthouse with nothing. No house. No savings. No safety net. Marcus picked us up in his old, dented sedan. The engine rattled as if even it resented carrying us. The drive was silent. By the second week back under Marcus's roof, the fighting became routine. He drank more. He yelled louder. He blamed me for everything, losing Brian's money, the comfortable life, the illusion of control. Karen stopped defending him completely once she became his new target. That was the cruelest irony. She had dragged me back to him, and now she was terrified of him. The night he shoved me hard enough that I hit the kitchen counter, Karen screamed at him for the first time. Touch her again, and I'm calling the cops. Marcus laughed in her face. You think anyone cares? He sneered. Your mom chose this. And he was right. I had. A month later, Karen came into my room shaking. She didn't need to say anything. I knew before she spoke. "I'm pregnant," she whispered. The word echoed in my skull. Pregnant. My daughter. Barely 18. Pregnant. Scared. Unwanted by the man she'd worshipped her whole life. Marcus exploded when he found out. He accused her of ruining his life. Of embarrassing him. Of being just like me. That night, he threw her out. Literally. Her bag hit the porch before she did. I watched from the window, frozen, as she stood there crying, the same child who once smirked while signing away our life, now shaking in the cold. She left to stay with a friend. And that's when she called Brian. I didn't hear the conversation, but I heard the aftermath. Karen came back the next day, face blotchy, eyes hollow. "He said no," she whispered. "He wouldn't help me." Something in her voice, something small and broken, made my chest ache. For the first time, I didn't feel angry at Brian. I felt envy. He had escaped. Not just the marriage.
Us.
Marcus spiraled fast after that. Bills piled up. The drinking never stopped. One night, after another screaming match, he told me to get out too. "You brought nothing but problems," he slurred. I didn't argue. I packed what little I had left and left. I ended up renting a tiny room in a shared apartment. No privacy. No comfort. Just survival. Karen stopped calling after a while. Whether out of shame or resentment, I don't know. Months passed. One afternoon, while scrolling mindlessly on my phone, I saw something that made my breath catch. A photo. Brian. Standing in an airport. Suitcase beside him. Caption tagged by a mutual acquaintance. "Big move. New chapter. Bangkok, Thailand." Bangkok. I stared at that picture for a long time. He looked lighter. Healthier.
Free.
That night, I cried harder than I had since the divorce. Not because I missed him, but because I finally understood what I had destroyed. I hadn't just cheated on my husband. I had underestimated him. I had mistaken kindness for weakness, calm for submission, love for obligation. And Karen, Karen, had learned the same lesson far too late. The last time I spoke to Brian was by accident. Months after the divorce, I found his number still saved in my phone. I don't know why my fingers moved the way they did. Muscle memory, maybe. Desperation. It rang once, then twice, then click. "Hello," he said. Hearing his voice made my throat close. "It's me," I whispered. There was a pause. "I know," he replied calmly. I swallowed. "I just wanted to say, I'm sorry." Another pause. Longer this time. "For everything," I added quickly. "I know it doesn't fix anything. Brenda," he interrupted gently. "I don't hate you. That hurt more than anger ever could. But I don't want to be part of your life anymore." Tears streamed down my face. "Karen's pregnant," I blurted out. "She's struggling." I know," he said. "She called me." My chest tightened. "Please, she's scared." "I was scared too," he replied quietly. For a long time. Silence. "I hope she figures it out," he continued. "But it won't be with my help." And then, softer. "I hope you do too." The line went dead. That was it. No screaming. No revenge speech. No closure scene. Just a door closing. Forever. Today, I live alone. I work a job I never thought I'd have to take. I count every dollar. I avoid mirrors on bad days. Karen and I barely speak. When we do, the conversations are stiff, full of things we don't know how to forgive in each other. Sometimes, late at night, I replay that morning at the kitchen table. The sunlight.
The tea.
The calm man across from me, who I thought would always wait. If I could go back, I don't know if I'd choose differently. That's the most terrifying part. Because regret isn't always loud. Sometimes, it's just quiet acceptance that you are the villain in your own story. And no one is coming to save you from that.